Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen. And first of all, let me say that I want to thank everyone for joining today. We have a decent crowd. We're excited for that, and I appreciate you all taking the time to spend a little time with us and so you can learn a little bit more about our WebAR product. I do want to say initially that this is going to be recorded so that we can make it available later on our website, as well as make it available to others that we can send the link to. I would ask you to mute your phone until the end when we open it up for questions. That way any background noise would be kept to a minimum. And lastly, I want to apologize for any extra invites you had received. Had a little trouble with Outlook, and it decided when it wanted to send a blank email or not. And so we're working through those technical issues. My name is Chuck Stahl. I'm head of business development here at CNBS. This is a kind of a co-sponsored webinar. I also have Jen Rossi, who's VP of Sales from Paymetric, available on the line for any kind of Paymetric-specific questions. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the company briefly, and we're going to talk a little bit about the product. We're going to talk features, benefits, etc., but I know you're really here to see the product, so I'm not going to belabor the points. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to share with you a little bit about the company and about the product and the positioning so that you understand it before you actually see the demo. So CNBS, basically we're a next-generation SAP add-on software. So over the past 15 to 20 years, you've had a ton of SAP ERP systems implemented in many, many companies, and we actually specialize in that next generation of software, which are SAP add-ons for specific niche areas. We specialize in WebAR, which is basically connecting your customers to your SAP system, allowing them to pay easier. We also specialize in e-commerce, so increasing sales online, as well as mobility and integration solutions, which are something that we're just now introducing, and we actually have a webinar in August where we will introduce some new technology there. Our focus is high value, high ROI, so we focus on products that bring you return very, very quickly. So there are rapid implementation periods, and these are products that aren't interface products. These are products that were built inside essentially of SAP on the NetWeaver stack. And so they're like another module of SAP almost. So it's real-time access to that data. There's no data syncing. There's no additional hardware required. And as I mentioned, it's built on the SAP NetWeaver stack. Briefly, I want to mention our upcoming webinar schedule. We have a e-commerce webinar on July 22nd if you're interested in that. And we also, as I mentioned, are introducing the Annostics framework in August 12th, which is basically a new technology that allows you to easily access SAP data from almost any front end. Here's just a sampling of our customers. Some of them you may recognize. So we've been implementing the product for many years now and have quite a few customers to show. Just a little bit about the partnership with Paymetric. Basically, what our solution does is it's built on top of and interwoven with Paymetric's solution that allows for total integration with SAP. So again, I mentioned there are no interfaces. It's real-time access to the data. There's secure credit card processing, e-check processing, and tokenization of data intercept, as well as open invoice clearing via WebAR. So we found it to be a good partnership, and that's worked well thus far. One quick testimonial with Vera Bradley. We implemented WebAR, and as you can see here from Todd, the former IT director there, they exceeded their first-year adoption goal basically in 6 months. So the interesting thing is it's almost like a build it and they will come. You don't think that customers want to pay sooner, but if you make it easier for them, they tend to pay you first, and you do get paid sooner. So they were able to exceed their goal in 6 months. They You put automatic payments in place. Again, you make it easy because it's 24/7, 365, and it's PCI compliant, and it just simplifies the whole reconciliation process. So you're taking a very manual process in the past and automating it and making it much simpler. So these are some of the traditional pain points, and for those of you that are on the call, you're very familiar with this, otherwise you wouldn't be on the call. You know, you have a system which is very manual intensive, it's inflexible, it's inefficient, you depend on people. Whenever people are involved, you have problems and issues that come up, and you have mistakes that are made. Some people are still using, you know, phone to phone, so then you're playing phone tag with people, traditional mail, fax. I mean, it's a very laborious process, and it's expensive because, you know, whenever you have people involved, it gets expensive, and most companies don't want to put a ton of people in place to do that, so they end up having limited resources available, which just lends itself to additional mistakes, and people are trying to do too much in too little time, and so that creates problems. You know, you always want to get your money sooner, so if you can collect your cash faster, that's better, obviously, and then some of these processes are non-compliant, so you run into issues there. So some of the features, as I mentioned before, it makes it convenient for your customers to pay their open invoices over the web. So, and then boom, real time, it automatically updates your SAP system. So as I mentioned, also we're integrated with Paymetrics, WebAR, as well as their data intercept. Quick payments via stored credit cards, you know, e-check, PayPal, et cetera. I mean, basically you've got much capability built into this that makes it, again, easy for your customers to pay you, and also easy access to invoices. So you can download invoices into an Excel sheet. You can download an invoice into a PDF. I mean, there's just many different ways to access that information. And a key metric in finance, of course, is day sales outstanding. And when you get your money in faster, your day sales outstanding gets reduced, and the automated process basically does its job, which is to improve the financial standing of the company and get your cash in quicker. So we've actually seen customer satisfaction going up in many of our customers. It obviously improves your credit-to-cash ratio, and then reduces your cost for the manual processing. So basically this is just automation at its finest. You take out the manual, you put in the automated, and you reduce errors, you reduce costs, et cetera. So, you know, you're PCI compliant, and it does leverage your existing SAP environment. So again, no interfaces, it's real-time data, so you don't have the overhead cost of managing the interfaces. And again, quick implementation for a rapid ROI, and I'll explain some of that later and go into a little bit more detail. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to JP, who's going to do the actual demo itself. And let me move it down to him. I'm going to give him control so he can show you the actual system.
Okay, thanks very much, Chuck. So if you can, Chuck, if you don't mind, if you can just validate that you can hear me and that you can see my screen.
I can see your screen, and you're a little soft, so make sure you're speaking closer to the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. So thanks, everybody, for the opportunity to present today. And so as Chuck said, we're going to go through a demonstration of the WebAR software. A couple of key points that I just want to reiterate from Chuck's earlier comments. You know, one of the key features of this is living within the ECC environment. So we are not doing, this is not a hosted solution. We're not sitting outside and having data synchronization issues. This resides right in the ECC system, so you're leveraging all of the data real time, and all of these things are happening in real time. So to begin
You're
with,
getting a little soft, JP. You're getting a little soft.
Let me check and make sure. Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Thank you. So the main screen you're looking at right now, we're entering in with the user who's already set up in the system. We do have the ability that you can go ahead and pre-register people to use the application, or as you see on the link here, that people can go up and actually sign up and have a registration process through your organization to be able to use the system. One important point with the user that we're looking at is this user is tied to their account within the SAP system. So they'll have access to their transactional data, and all of the payments and the postings that they're doing are going to their account. So we'll go ahead with this user and log in. The first screen that you're seeing here, we arrive at this for a couple of reasons. One is that you may have a user that is tied to multiple accounts in the system. For our demo, it's really just a one-to-one relationship here. Just have one account set up that we're using. But we also have an interesting feature called Pose As with this software, which allows a internal user to actually come in and provide assistance to customers in a way where they can log in as any customer in the system. Typically, this is just going to be a display access. You're not going to have them posting payments on their behalf. But let's say, for example, a customer calls in and they're having trouble using the system. They can't locate an invoice to download. So you could have someone in AR and accounts receivable come in, or customer service come in and log in as that user or into that account to see what it is they're seeing. So that's a couple of reasons why you would see this screen. Then we go ahead and we select our customer and we log in, and we're presented with the main screen. In this case, this really gives you a marketing department with the main section, the ability to take control of the content here to present any type of messaging that you would like to present to your customers. And so that can be updated and presented to them. No need to go through the SAP transport process or any of the typical technical issues to try and update the pages. Give that to marketing and allow them to have access. So before diving into the individual functionality, I'll just give a brief overview of the different things that we're going to cover, and then we'll talk about each one of those. So as we're saying, that one of the key elements with this is we're taking the solutions that are offered from Paymetric and extending those to the web, and so we're leveraging a number of features with the invoices and to make payments, that we're leveraging the OpenAR functionality. With the advanced payments, we are leveraging DirectAR. There's also the ability to have account statements. And then with the payment method management, we're actually leveraging some other components like the XI Intercept and also XI Pay. XI Intercept is going to be for your tokenization, and XI Pay is going to be for your authorization setup. So, and then within there, the users have the ability to add their cards and e-check accounts, and we'll cover all of that as we go through. So let's take a look first at what the users can do as far as listing their invoices. So a user come in, make their selection, and they're first presented with a selection screen. All of these are customizable. So out of the box, it's offering the ability to look at invoices in various status, either open or completed or both. You can look at the payment status, whether you have something that's due or not due, as well as the ability to select various date ranges. We can predefine periods, and then, or allow them to select date ranges. Make sure that everybody's able to hear me. In addition, you have the ability to select certain characteristics that they can search for. They happen to know their invoice number, or if there is a material number that they know that they purchased that they want to find, or linked to some other type of document number, whether it be typically it's going to be a sales order or even possibly a delivery. And then they enter in those characteristics and do the search. So we'll go ahead and take the default here and do a search on this, and that presents us with the list of invoices. So here we have a number of items that we're seeing. Some of these we can show that the customer's actually made a payment, and you see that, and then we also have the invoices. Here then you have the date of the invoice, the total, if they've actually paid any amount, the open amount, the date that it's due. If something's been paid in full, it will actually show the full payment and then the number of days of payment. In addition, you have the ability, one of the key points, we can leverage the output that you have on your invoices, so that if you have SAPscript or Smart Forms, or if you use some type of an external invoice delivery provider, that we can link to those and actually let the customers download a PDF and actually see their invoices. So this is going to run that. We'll have it available for download. You can open and see this. And so if the customers ever had any question, perhaps this was emailed to them when the invoice was created out of the SAP system. It's possible for them to get that, but maybe they lost it, or if it was an old-fashioned method, if it was snail mail, and they don't have it, this allows them access to those if they have questions about it. So this is fairly straightforward. You get your totals and all of this. All of these things you can download via Excel so that they can save those as well. So that's a key component. The major thing that most people are interested in is for the customer to come in and actually start making their payment. So in this case, again, you have a very simple selection screen. They can either take things that are due up to the current date, or if for some reason they have things that may be due in the future that they want to see, they can go ahead and just say, show me all my open items, run a quick search on those, and then they get the listing of items. So here we've got some, in this case, we've got a couple of payments that are showing, and we also have a credit memo in there. The software does support the ability to display those credit memos and then let them use that credit towards payment on another open item. So that's possible. We also support partial payments. So in this case, and that's what I'll demonstrate here, so I've got an open invoice that I'd like to pay, and I'll go ahead and select this one for payment. But at this time, I only want to pay $50 on this particular invoice. We can require that they enter a reason in for this. These reason codes are going to pull from what you already have configured within the SAP environment. So in this case, we have just a few simple examples. In this case, we'll do partial pay, and then we'll just say this is for partial. Now, it is possible that they can go ahead and select all invoices at a time. This doesn't have to be a one-at-a-time process. And at this point, we go ahead and continue on to the next screen to do the checkout process to actually pay the invoice. We have a variety of payment methods that are supported, credit card, e-check, and we can also integrate with PayPal. This is the point where we have one of the major integrations with the Paymetric offerings, and that's going to be the XI Intercept to handle the tokenization of credit cards. So in this case, I am pulling what cards are currently available already on the customer master. So when the users are set up, even initially on a rollout, if you have customers that already have account information on their customer master, when they enroll into this WebAR service, then those cards and accounts will display. So here, if I switch over to e-check, I have an e-check account. This is also pulling from the customer master and displaying there. You notice that we're only exposing the last 4 digits here. The important point on this is completely PCI compliant. So as we're working with this solution and we want to add a new card to the system, say this time I'm going to choose MasterCard. This, and just say this is the webinar, put my card number in, select the dates. And this is a key point. Right now, the raw credit card data that's being entered here, this WebAR is actually rendering the XI intercept within the application. This is running on the Paymetrics server, so this is not running on the native system. So right now we're viewing this off of a demo system, but this particular piece here is actually running off of the Paymetrics system using the XI intercept. And what will happen in this process when we add the card to the system is this will actually then send this information to Paymetrics. They will tokenize the card, and the token will then be returned back to the system, and this will then apply the token to the customer master. So in that case, all you're seeing then on this is the token. That's the only thing that's ever stored in your system. Sorry, I had an error before I did. So now this is making the call, and the card is added, and then we can go ahead and use that particular card. In this case, I'll go ahead and take that and submit my payment, making the call back to the system, and at this point, all the authorization is taking place, and then it will return for us the authorization information and the accounting information that is posted to FI. Then the user will have the ability after that to print this off. So you see here, we've got the document number, authorization code, and actually as well as the accounting document. And again, they have the option to print this as well. So that is basically a simple way for them to make their payments. In addition to the OpenAR functionality, and that's what we were running here, we offer them the ability for customers then to make advanced payments. And this is leveraging the direct AR functionality. And in this case, if I just want to put in that I'm going to add $10 to my account, can also require reasons for this on why they want to do an advance payment. So we select that. If they happen to have this tied to a particular sales order, we can do that as well. So we'll just say this is this form, and then we go ahead and put in some additional text that can be written to the clearing document. Then we do our continue, and we're back to a familiar screen. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'd like to be able to make a payment with my eCheck account. In this case, I'll just show you the screen, but we won't walk through the entire process because it's the same. Basically, again, we're running the XI intercept. We can put the account holder's name, routing number, account type, etc., and go ahead and have that tokenized and apply to the customer master the same way that we did with the other. Just toggle out of that and get back in so we can make the payment with this one, and the end result will be the same, that we get a confirmation with the same information, document number, authorization code, reason, amount, etc., and then the user is able to save that information. Lastly, what we have available is account statements. And with this functionality, this allows the user then to request their account balance based on a certain day. If I take the default here and say that I would like to get a PDF version of my account statement for the last 30 days, then I run this functionality, runs behind the scenes, and it presents me with the PDF. Go ahead and open this. We've got just kind of a quick and dirty one for demo purposes here. This is one where we would leverage one of your smart forms or SAP script forms, whatever you're using to display. And then it gives a summary of all of the activities for that user for the given time period. So this is also a very useful feature for them. So In addition to this, then the user is able to do account management. So let's say, for example, the user comes in, they don't actually have a payment, but perhaps they had a lost, a stolen credit card, or they got a new card in the mail, and then they need to go ahead and update their account and don't have something to pay. You need to give them the ability to actually go in and manage their account. And one thing you'll notice here is they can go ahead and manage their personal data. That's going to handle things just like the email address, their phone number. They can change password. Since we are integrated into SAP, you can see that the partner data is displayed here. You've got the sold to, shipped to, billed to, payer. If there are multiples of any of these, those would be displayed as well. So it's grabbing all of that information in real time. But in addition, as I mentioned, instead of having to actually go through the checkout process to manage payment methods, they can come in and actually just manage those here. And in this case, all of the accounts then are available for management. And again, you can add, update, delete on both types of accounts. And that's basically the functionality. It's a very clean, very simple interface for users to use, offers very robust features. Again, sitting within the ECC environment with real-time access, and then leveraging some of these key components of the XI intercept, XI pay, and so that you've got complete PCI compliance. So at this point, I'll hand it back off to my colleague Chuck and allow him to open things up for questions.
Thanks, JP.
Welcome.
Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen now. And next, I'd just like to talk about how the results can be delivered so quickly. Basically, as we've said before, this is completely integrated inside of SAP, so it's 100% real-time. There's no interfaces, no additional hardware that's required. So it's an out-of-the-box solution, and it's totally customizable for future phases. And we have a lot of experience with this. So I just want to talk money for just a bit. The objective of this slide isn't to dig deep into this. What I just want to show with you is the basis for the rapid return, which is based upon a reduction in the manual effort to reduce DSO. Now, these numbers do not include paymetric pricing. Some of our customers already have paymetric, in which case it might be a small upcharge on the paymetric side. In some cases, they don't have paymetric, so we have to include that in here. But as you can see, the more customers you have on paying online, the greater the savings increase, via the orange line. And the blue line is essentially the investment that you make. So, for example, you've got maybe a couple of people managing your outside customers' payments. You might be able to reduce some headcount, save a little bit of money. You might be able to you will be able to get your cash in sooner, probably save a little or add a little interest to the bank account. And so it's a simple concept, but a very effective one. So you can see here the example on the investment side. It reflects the software implementation is typically maybe $20,000 to $40,000. Our base cost for a monthly WebAR is around $1,500 a month. This particular example was $2,700 a month. It's based upon annual revenues of the company. So I just wanted to show you that concept to give you an example of how people are calculating an ROI. And as I mentioned before, the implementation is usually around 20 to 40K, usually around 3 months, and we have a subscription pricing that starts around $1,500 a month. Okay. Now, we've thrown a lot at you in a short period of time, so for those of you that are interested, I'd like you to take your phones off of mute. Feel free to ask questions. I, myself, JP, or Jen will be happy to answer those. Any questions from anyone? Okay. With that, I will close the call. Thank you all for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we will get back to you shortly. Thank you very much.